Welcome everybody to day 7 of ETHDenver. I'm super excited to be emceeing for you today. I got my Marmot swag on, ready for the day to get going. And we have our first speaker up here. They're going to be talking about DAO, DeFi now, with an exclamation point at the end. Please welcome William Warren.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me this morning. If you're in MT or PT time, thanks for waking up early. For you fellow East Coasters, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, today I want to talk about DAOs and DeFi and how DAOs should start DeFiing now, right? It's time for DAOs to leverage DeFi and also for DeFi to leverage DAOs. And we'll explore a little bit what that means. So let's first start off with why DAO? So we've seen in the ecosystem a couple great use cases for DAOs. You know, the first is project funding, basically an alternative way of funding your startup or project to get going, a more community-centric way of funding, so to speak. There's also grants giving. Things like the original Moloch DAO or Metacartel have given out hundreds of thousands in grants to ecosystem participants to get them off the ground. There's also clubs like Metagamma Delta, which has actually transitioned into a grants-giving DAO itself, but it brings people together with similar interests. And then finally, we see lots of investment DAOs like the LAO, like Metacartel Ventures, that are putting serious money into the ecosystem when startups or projects are at a little bit later of a stage. Basically, what I'm saying is DAOs work for a lot of different use cases. And we're seeing a proliferation of DAOs in the space. Every year, I feel like all of us DAO nerds say, this is the year of the DAO. Well, I'm pretty confident that 2021 will actually be the year where DAOs start to take off. But what's important now is to consider how we use these DAOs and how we leverage DeFi, which 2020 was dominated by, in order to supercharge these DAOs. So, you know, again, the future is DAO. This will be the year of the DAO. And right now we're seeing $1 billion locked in DAOs. And thanks to DeepDAO for their stats, but that represents over 52 million in ETH, 34 million in USDC, 10 million in DAI, and then hundreds of millions in native tokens like Pi for Pi DAO or MStable for MStable DAO. The list goes on and on. What that really represents to me as a DAO plus DeFi nerd is a lost opportunity. So if you look at Aave and their stats on the last 30-day average yield on DAI, it's 10%. Take 10% of $100 million. That's $10 million over a year. You know, just looking at that smaller DAI number, if all 34 million of that DAI had been invested in a DeFi platform last year, those DAOs would have had an extra $3 million to use to advance their mission. And that's what DAOs are all about, accomplishing some goal, whether that be social cohesion, creating a project, or being able to invest in new projects, either through grants or more traditional investments. You know, that also means it's a lost opportunity to reward users, because maybe you want to give that interest back to the people that have committed their capital, right? There's no opportunity cost to participating in a DAO if you can earn yield just for tributing in your DAI or USDC or ETH. And at the end of the day, that's what motivated us to create Pool Party, because we saw two things in the DAO ecosystem. One, that DAOs were generally goal-oriented, but were set up to be run more like traditional organizations, right? The most important thing of DAOs is hitting that initial goal, right? Getting enough of a little bit of money to do and pursue whatever that mission is. The second thing we noticed about the DAO ecosystem was lacking, and which is the topic of this talk, is that DAOs weren't leveraging DeFi. Instead, you had all of this idle capital just sitting there and not working for the members, not working for the DAO. So that's why we started Pool Party, and I'd like to welcome you all to the party right now that we're combining DAOs and DeFi. And what we've been doing at Pool Party is auto-wrapping deposits into yield-bearing tokens for our DAOs. You know, we started off in November with idle Finance, it's a great platform. They optimize for yield across Aave, Compound, DXDY, so really trusted protocols, in order to give depositors the best possible yield for their DAI or USDC or WBTC. Then instead of just giving that yield to the DAO automatically, we actually let users claim their share of the yield or leave it for the DAO. It really depends on the community and the mission of the DAO. You might feel a little guilty taking yield from a grants DAO where the mission is really to give back to the community. On the other hand, for a venture DAO, you might feel completely okay saying, well, this is just part of the investment that we're making, and I am actively farming my share of the yield. The other thing that we saw and did, actually by accident, we didn't think of this, so don't credit us for any of this accomplishment, but we realized that this allows also for passive yield farming. Again, most people join a DAO not to just farm yield, right? You can go to Harvest or Badger or any number of great DeFi platforms if you just want to go it alone, farm some yield. Instead, remember, DAOs are all kind of mission oriented. They all have an objective that they want to accomplish. So, yield farming and managing treasury really actively isn't something that we wanted to put on the DAOs, right, or the DAO managers. Instead, right, because we're auto-wrapping tokens and putting it in a platform like IDLE, which distributes IDLE for depositing in their pools, that means the DAO itself is actually farming IDLE. And because IDLE uses Compound, right, you're also farming Comp, which is pretty exciting. That means you're farming at least 2 tokens when you use something like IDLE Finance through one of our DAOs. And maybe, we'll still see, you'll be farming a pool token in the future as well. So, our first step as Pool Party was really to create these custom DAOs that were more goal-focused, were automatically farming yield on their deposits, and would allow people to kind of come together and truly kind of invest in a project or initiative that they wanted to take on. Thus far, we've seen, people use pool parties for ETH2 staking. We've seen it used for putting together some developer funds so that we Pool Party can improve the UX and experience of the site. We've seen it being used to start a hacker villa, which is an exciting experiment using Pan that will create kind of a more regenerative hacker and hackathon ecosystem. And we've also seen it being used for, saving up for dope NFTs. NFTs are getting expensive. Maybe you can't afford one on your own. So DAO it. The next step that we're really excited about and we're announcing here is we want to let them all party. So our mission was not to create an exclusive DAO platform that didn't work with anything else. We come from the Moloch ecosystem, which is really, despite the Canaanite god of child sacrifice being the meme, it's really an inclusive ecosystem where people work on creating value adds and working together. So we're super excited to start the next step of Pool Party, which is building helper contracts so that any DAO, at least in the Moloch ecosystem to start, can start taking advantage of our DeFi wrappers. And again, because we're familiar with IDLE Finance, we're going to start with them, as well as Aave, since we're releasing our first kind of Aave parties in the next week. So, look out for the, because these helper contracts will any DAO, whether you started on the Pool Party platform, in which case you don't really need them, or you've already created a DAO through something like DAO House, to take advantage of DeFi as part of the member onboarding process and also managing your treasury in a simple way. Before I finish up, since this is only a short 15-minute talk, I do want to talk a little bit about the other side of the token, so to speak. Hopefully I've convinced you that DAOs and DeFi are a match made in Ether, I will call it. DAO should be leveraging DeFi to help their members earn yield, to help themselves earn yield, and that's all well and great. The other side of that token is why DeFi should be using DAOs. I think for all of us in the crypto ecosystem, we remember the DeFi summer, we remember the rise of sushi, and then we remember the Master Chef drama where he set the kitchen on fire, so to speak. That doesn't happen so much when you have a DAO to manage a protocol. DAOs are a really powerful tool for coordinating communities that are pretty disparate and spread out. With a DAO, you don't need to necessarily know people's names or place of work or anything else. You just need to have that community that can make collective decisions together efficiently. It means that nobody can kind of run away with all the funds unless the community is really on board with that. And if they are, right, that's up to the community. But, beyond the oversight, it also creates another layer of engagement. I'm a big believer in decentralized governance. So a lot of DeFi platforms are gradually, and we hope to see more in the future, embracing this notion of including all the stakeholders in the decision making. And DAOs are a perfect way of doing that, because you can have your users as part of the DAO, you can have investors or other backers as part of the DAO, you can have the core team as part of the DAO, all making decisions together in terms of how to use the project funds in the best way possible. This is also a pretty easy way of setting up, rewards for participation with a native token. One of the pool parties that I haven't talked about, we call it our no-fi party, because it doesn't auto-wrap any tokens, but it's really built to do exactly this, where you can have people join the DAO by staking the native token, and then you can set aside a stream of kind of rewards-based tokens using something like Superfluid, so that the people who participate actively in your DAO's governance kind of still earn yield in the form of more governance tokens. And we think that's a really powerful and special way of building trust in the community and also rewarding more and more of your stakeholders for getting actively involved in governance. My final kind of plug for all the teams that are hacking on stuff at ETHDenver, without a doubt, there will be some amazing projects and startups that are created right here in the next day or two. It's never too early to just DAO it. Whether you use DAO House or Pool Party, soon Pool Party will be on DAO House, but whatever DAO platform you need to use, just DAO it. Create a DAO from the outset for your project team. You might only have 2 or 3 members of that DAO at the outset, being the kind of builders, but it's an immediate way to bring more and more stakeholders into your project. And if you're smart about it, as those stakeholders come in, put the funds into a DeFi protocol, earn yield, become even more self-sustaining. So that's all I have for today. If you want to come party with us, you can check us out at pool-party.club. You can also ape into our Discord by hitting that QR code. We're really excited for the future of DAOs and DeFi. We think a lot's going on here. We're pretty keen to see some interesting innovations coming down the pike, thanks to DeFi platforms releasing V2s and V3s with more and more ways to DeFi in creative ways. And we're about to leverage all of those new creative tools for DAOs to increase yield, increase user engagement, and really supercharge their ability to accomplish their mission.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bill.
On Telegram or LinkedIn or wherever if you have any questions or want to connect.
Thank you so much for the presentation, Bill. Just DAO it is a term that everyone should be picking up as long as Nike doesn't sue.
Yes, right. Just DAO it and stay away from Nike.
And stay away from Nike. There you go. All right. Thank you so much, Bill.
Thank you.